y'all, this week for True Talks, I thought I'd switch it up a bit. I want to go over a little list that I encountered in my little brief search for some information. So I'm going to go ahead and tell y'all, I was just searching like, okay, what are some things that successful people do a whole lot different than others? Like, are there things they do differently? What really makes them successful? What I literally searched was things successful people do. What popped up was 10 little things successful people do differently. That was one of the first links that popped up. And it was an article written by a guy named Casey. Last name, I know I'm going to butcher, so I'm just going to use his initial, which is I. So it's Casey I. And he wrote this article back in July of 2016. How much of it still applies in 2020? So the first thing he listed, right, was number one, they strive for consistency. Now that's mind-blowing to a lot of people who want success and don't have it, right? Because oftentimes the people who want success and don't have it blame it on a lack of money or resources, which I'm not saying that doesn't play a role in success, but ultimately it's not the end-all, do-all for success. A lot of successful people I've encountered will back number one up. They've told me when I've asked, like, what's the one thing that if you could give any advice to anyone at any level, what would it be for them to be successful? And consistency has always been a part of that advice. So I believe that they strive for consistency still applies in 2020. And personally, I've seen where success have kicked in because of my consistency. So I definitely know that there is some truth in that, if not a whole lot of truth, in that. Tell me what y'all think. The second one is they set daily goals. This is another thing that I've heard too. I've talked to players, actual professional players. I've talked to entertainers, professional entertainers, and they have said that, every day they wake up with an agenda. That's like the key thing. They're like, if you don't have nothing to do in your day, something's wrong. You must have an agenda. You have to set goals. Now, what those goals are varies person to person, obviously, but you have to at least have some goal, even if it's small, even if it's short term or long term. We all hear about the 5-year plan, 10-year plan, and that type of thing. And when I've been in those conversations with people, it's been less about the yearly goals. It's been mostly about the daily ones. And so that was like an eye-opener to me when I saw that was the second thing behind consistency. I'm like, okay, this lists on to something. The third thing was nurture the right relationships. That took me out. I was like, I don't even really need to read the rest of this list, because this list is knocking down one by one advice I've received. Nurturing the right relationships. How many times in life have someone told you you are what you surround yourself by? If the people around you don't have anything, guess what? If you have something now, you're not going to have it long. One of the people that I like to follow and watch her film techniques when she produces movies and directs is Queen Latifah. I love Queen Latifah as a person that she depicts herself to be. As someone who is a director, a filmmaker, as a writer, as a rapper, because y'all know Queen can rap and sing. I just love her as a person. I love her spirit, and I pray one day I get to meet her. But that's something that even, she talked about. In her book, she talks about surround yourself around people who have something to lose. Because if those people don't have anything to lose, you are at risk of whatever it is they do. Cultivating those right relationships can get your foot in the door in a lot of different places. So this list had me like, okay, I'm going to move on to 4, but I know that this list is true. It's still holding a lot of weight in 2020. So the fourth thing the list mentions is that successful people have high emotional intelligence. What does that mean, right? And each one of these, he provides a little summarized explanation of each one of these 10 things. So you guys can go and review this list yourself. I will provide the link on my imtrinice.com website. But high emotional intelligence. He explains this as progressive thinkers. People who are constantly finding answers to problems, and they are consciously aware of how they're adding to their environment. That took me out. I was like, okay, so essentially you saying these are the people who look at the world and think of ways to make it better. These are the people who say, if only this area had this, I think it would do this type of good. Or these are the people who, on a smaller scale, thinks about how everything is interconnected and has worth. And so I'm like, okay, cool. I can get behind 1 through 4. Let me move on to 5. So the 5th thing he talks about successful people doing differently is taking action. This is not to be confused with them not starting as dreamers, though. A lot of people dream, but they get fixated in just dreaming. They never take action. And so successful people start as dreamers, but they take action. They implement plans that literally makes them have to do something to get to the next level, to reach that end goal. And that's interesting to me because a lot of people have these great ideas, but for whatever reason, you don't see it happen. And oftentimes it's because of action. I think there's a distinction between dreamers who turn into people that are successful because of their action versus people who are dreamers and stay there due to them allowing so many things to stop them from reaching that next step. So let me explain that. A lot of times with someone who dreams and they're just supposed to be a dreamer or just going to stop at the dreaming level, the first problem they encounter, they stop and give up. They don't try to create another approach. They just say, because this didn't happen this way, I can't do this. The dreamers who become successful people, the first problem they encounter doesn't stop them. They figure out another way to reach that end goal. And I think that he does a really good job of explaining that in this article. The one thing that successful people do differently is that they always find a way to practice positive self-talk. The vision board concept, right? The posting affirmations concept, like all of the things that people do when they are being just as intentional about the positive thinking as they are the negative. It's not to say that successful people aren't negative, because I've talked to people who are very successful and they've been down before, and they get down throughout the day when things don't go their way, meetings don't go as planned, deals aren't made to the capacity which they anticipated. They get a little down about that, but somehow they find a way to be positive or alter their thinking in a way that it is mostly positive. For every negative thought they have, they make sure they have a positive one right behind it. Or they take the time they need to create an environment where it attracts more positive energy, positive thinking. That was pretty cool that he mentioned that. The 7th thing is stay healthy in mind and body. So this complements number 6 in that if you're already training yourself to be more positive in your thinking, that's going to help in addressing that mind piece, right? Making sure your mental capacity is at a place where it's not stressed, it's not overwhelmed, it's able to decipher between what is temporary and what is permanent. Being fit, making sure they're remaining fit in mind and in body. They exercise regularly so that rejuvenates their spirit, gives them good energy, and basically keeps them young, So staying healthy is important. The 8th thing is that they meditate. This complements 6 and 7, right? So we taking care of the mental side of this. Meditation allows for you to focus on one thing at a time. And if you always have ideas going nonstop, I'm this way. That's why I meditate, because that's the only time where I can zone out and get quiet. But if you always have a million things going on in your mind and you don't ever have silence, how can you ever put into play a plan to make any of those things come to pass or anything? Number 9 was act on small improvement towards major goals. And then the last thing he came up with is wake up early. Now, a lot of people feel different about this because depending on when you are most alert and how your body responds to time, especially during the day, this can vary. I can definitely say I benefit from waking up earlier than later. When it's something like going to the doctor and that type of thing, I don't want to do that too early. I'd prefer to do that, before noon, but not at like 8 o'clock. Like if you got an 8 o'clock appointment versus 11 o'clock appointment, I'll take the 11 o'clock appointment, because then that'll give me time to do the things that are self-care before getting there, and I'll be a whole lot more relaxed versus having to wake up, rush. Like it's not what I prefer to do. But that is what I want to go over with you guys. I'd love to hear some of your feedback. What are some things you feel like this list is lacking? What are some things that you agree with, disagree with? Like, I want to know what y'all feel about this. So be sure to @ me on social media at trutalkspodcast, or send me a message at trutalkspodcast@yahoo.com. I'll be sure to share that in the next episode. And if you're listening to this on Anchor, you can record your feedback by hitting that message button, and I'll play it in the next episode. Or if you don't want it played, just mention in the message and it won't get played. But I'd love to hear you either way. Be sure to share this with everyone. Give me some reviews and ratings wherever you're listening to this from, and subscribe and follow. And like I always leave y'all, man, be blessed in every day that God gives you. Your life is full of purpose. Until next time, deuces.